Welcome back to Movie Summary. Today we are diving into a film called Fractured. The movie begins with a man by the name of Ray, arguing with his wife Joanne. Their little daughter Perry is sitting at the back of their car. A little later, Perry needs to go to the restroom, so they stop at a shop on the way. Once back in the car, Perry forgot something in the restroom, so Joanne goes to get it. Meanwhile, Ray cleans his spill coffee and Perry decides to venture outside after noticing a balloon. She comes face to face with a menacing dog. Ray realizes and scares him away. But unfortunately, pushed to edge by the dog, Perry ends up slipping and falling from a big height, with Ray jumping to save her. Moments later, Ray comes back to himself. Perry isn't moving and Joanne is trying to wake her up. Thankfully, Perry comes to herself. She seems to have something broken. So they drive to a hospital nearby. Once inside, Ray realizes how busy the hospital is. They tell them to sit and wait for their turn, while the poor Perry is in a lot of pain. Joanne is mad at Ray for not fighting harder and tells him to do something. A little later, they are finally called to the doctor. But before a lady asks a bunch of questions to Ray who isn't comfortable, she comes back and tell them they are good to go. Ray feels something strange, especially while looking at the lady, and while walking he sees a similar balloon to the one his daughter saw. Dr. Bertram then arrives and checks Perry. Bertram then thinks it may be a head injury, so he wants to make some extra scans. Bruce then comes to take Perry for a scan. Once at the lower level, he tells them this is a restricted area and he can only take one of the parents with him to the scan. So they agree on Joanne going with Perry. An hour later, Ray felt asleep and wakes up. He then goes to the reception to ask how much longer will the scan be. The receptionist says she doesn't have that information. So Ray wants to speak with Dr. Bertram, but she tells him he left for the day. She then checks and doesn't see any patient under the name of Perry. She also informs him there hasn't been a scan since the morning. Ray is so confused and sneaks into the room Perry was, but she is not there. Security is then called and Dr. Lucado comes to check, then confirms to him there is no record of his wife and daughter. Ray then sees Anne, the nurse who helped them. Dr. Lucado asks her and she remembers Ray. She adds that he was here earlier and was treated for head injury. Ray tells her that's not true, that she is lying, and gets aggressive towards her. Ray is neutralized by security and brought into a room. Moments later, he breaks out of that room and runs in the hospital while feeling dizzy. At one point, he sees the man who separated him and Joanne and brought Perry for scanning. But security Jeff comes running after him. Ray then successfully runs away and Jeff informs the hospital that he got away. Meanwhile, Ray gets back to his car and starts crying. He notices a police car and goes to stop them, screaming they stole his family. He then tells them everything that happened. He believes they did something and are covering up. So the officers go back inside with him to find out what happened. Jeff comes and screams that Ray is just crazy. They go asks Dr. Lucado. He tells them according to their nurse, Ray came in alone wishing to be treated for a head injury. But Ray and the officers then asks to see the record of that, but Lucado says that sometimes files get lost, etc. The police officers then asks to take them to the scans. Once in there, the scan machine shows there was no scan after 9 a.m. today. Moments later, Dr. Bertram arrives after being called when he was home. Ray confronts him immediately. Dr. Bertram explains that Ray came in earlier asking to be treated after a car accident. Jeff then tells everyone, there is only one way to clear this out, the surveillance cameras. They all check the cameras and only see Ray alone. This time the police officers start believe maybe Ray is crazy. Ray then remembers the cashier who saw them together when they stopped for Perry to go to the restroom. He wants them to ask her. But Bertram tells everyone with head injuries it's normal to start mixing things in his mind. Moments later, Dr. Jacobs arrives. She works at the psychiatric department. She takes Ray aside to get to the bottom of this. She questions him about his late wife Abby, his first wife who passed on accident. Dr. Jacobs then suggests they look at the spot where Perry allegedly has her accident. Jacobs tells the rest there is a chance Joanne and Perry are still there. They then go to check and the patrol is called to search. Ray then explains to them the events of what happened here. One of the patrol officers then find an object belonging to Perry. Ray tells them that's the one she forgot in the restroom. But they find a huge trace of blood. Ray says it is, but police is now forced to call the CSI team. It's now a crime scene. Jacobs then takes Ray aside, believing he made it all up. She continues by saying he was probably very angry at his wife, that he picked up the rock and didn't throw at any dog but at his daughter. She believes he killed Joanne and Perry, then his mind created a false memory as shield to protect him from trauma. She finishes her speech by asking, "Where are they?" He is silent. The officers then put him on handcuffs, letting him know he is under arrest for the suspicion of murder. At this moment, the patrol dog starts barking at something. Ray realizes it's the dog that went against Perry and is convinced what he remembers really happened. He steals the officer's gun and takes Jacobs hostage. He then locks everyone in the building nearby, takes Jacobs' keycard and uses the police's car to head to the hospital. Once in there, he gets memories from the accident with his first wife. She was pregnant and it was his fault because he was drinking. But then the memory of Joanne telling him to do something comes back and he disguises as a nurse to go downstairs. The elevator doesn't work. At this moment, Jeff walks in and Ray points a gun at him. But both end up fighting and Ray finishes him. He then uses Jeff's key to go downstairs. Once in there, he finds many other people that had their organs taken out. He also sees the lady who asked him a bunch of questions. He follows her to a room of operation. There he sees Perry about to be operated. He bursts in with the gun. He then realizes it's Dr. Lucado. He also finds Joanne unconscious nearby. The doctors then fight back, but before they can inject him a tranquilizer, he shoots, which creates an explosion from a gas pipe nearby. Ray then takes his wife and daughter away. Dr. Bruce tries to stop him, but he shoots him in the leg. Ray then brings them to his car and drives away. On the road, he asks Joanne and Perry if they are okay. They respond that yes. We are then shown that in his car it's not them but a man who is bleeding. What really happened was Ray bursted in the operation room and saw this patient. His mind made him believe it's his wife and daughter. The movies then gives us what happened on that incident. Perry did fall, but she died instantly. Joanne came to scream at him and he pushed her away. She unfortunately fell on a sharp object. Ray put both bodies in the back of his car, which we are shown as he is driving in the present. The movie ends with the voice of Jacobs saying the mind can create fake realities to protect the mind from reality hard to imagine. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other movie summaries we have on our channel.